Okay, then we can just start talking about international human rights protection. That's also a branch of international law. International human rights protection can be perhaps a little bit misleading because human rights protection actually does not start from the international level. It's a pyramid, and its first step is the state protection. So the first thing that you're supposed to keep in mind is that the main protector of human rights is who? The state, definitely. The state is the main protector of human rights. That's why we have a state. The first expectation of the citizens is their protection, is their security. The rights, they have various categories, actually. There are core rights. There are political and civil rights. There are economic and social rights. So they have different categories. And before I ask you a question, let's just clarify what they are. Tell me what core rights are. Your core rights.
Right of living.
Your right to life, to live. What else? Right to? That's a political right. Your physical being, for instance, it cannot be irritated by outer forces. So, your mental being, it belongs to you. No one can, the state can decide to suspend your right to vote. The state can suddenly say that, okay, for instance, females are not voting anymore. We can be against it. Or during state of emergency, right? We have seen that, well, we have lived through state of emergency for 2.5 years, and there we have seen that actually many of our rights were suspended by the state. So the state has right to suspend certain rights of ours. But the state never decides that, okay, I don't want my citizens having their left eyes anymore. Because it is something directly related to our physical being. So this is how you can differentiate in between what core rights are and what the other rights are. Your physical well-being, your mental well-being, and your right to live. The state can never say that I don't want males in this land eating cheese anymore. I mean, it's something directly related to your nutrition, or the state cannot say that I want everybody eating 200 grams of cheese every day. Perhaps you're allergic to that. And this can, again, harm your physical being. So your physical being, how you live, how you survive, is directly related to your core rights. Then you have political and civil rights. Political and civil rights are actually political rights are your rights to vote or to get elected or to write petitions to the state. Do you remember recently there was a discussion in Turkey if Turkish state could simply stop the rights of those people that were already deprived of certain rights, also their right to vote. Are their votes going to be counted or what? KHK'ların oy kullanma hakkı. Well, you know what? Political rights are divisible actually. Right to vote, right to be elected, and right to write a petition. They're different rights. And for instance, if you want to become a parliament member, you have to have a good legal background. If you have committed certain crimes, then you cannot become a representative of the people. You know this. So therefore, there are also divisible rights, and right to vote is protected, but right to be protected, you can be deprived of that. That's possible. What else?
States should protect their citizens. So does this mean citizens have the right, the core right to be protected?
Actually, I did not say this. Wait a little bit until that's a discussion. Keep this a little bit, okay? Social, political, economic rights. Your right to write a book. Your right to publish a book. your right to be educated, your right to start your business. What else? Social rights. That's something else, but good point. But I mean, it requires a lot of knowledge to come to that point. You're good, but let's keep it like that again. Let's remain basic at this stage. What else? Normally, very crowded class here, 70 people. And we can simply decide to meet with each other at Güven Park, for instance. We can do it at the moment, but that was not possible for us to do so under state of emergency. Our right to assembly, our right to come together, because that, I mean, if we have met in Güven Park all together, all 70 of us, then probably police would be the 71st person saying that, what are you doing here? We're in the state of emergency, you cannot gather, so disseminate. That could also be the possibility. Social political rights, civil rights, economic rights, state has certain say on them related to the conditions, but core rights are always protected. Core rights are never limited by the state. So my first question is there a hierarchy in between rights? How do you assess this? The most important ones to less important ones. How do you assess that, Murat?
From an analyst point of view, main concern is about the survival of the state. So this means states should also do against its own citizens by the main.
But our emphasis is not on the state then. What I'm asking is there a hierarchy in between rights?
From this perspective, there is a hierarchy, and this is mainly due to the survival of the states and survival of that civilization represented by that state. So that state might sometimes resort to violence.
But my emphasis is not the state. So don't take it from state perspective. Ali?
I don't know what international law says about it, but my personal opinion is there is not a pyramid form hierarchy between states, between rights, but there is a network of rights. What I mean is that if you are discriminated, for example, based on your gender, on, let's say, voting, which is a political right, then it might cause a violation of your social rights in the future, and maybe it can escalate to violation of your core rights in the future. So they are linked to each other.
Okay, good. What do you think?
Logically, what we have said about suspension of rights in state of emergency, then it looks like there must be a hierarchy of rights, because otherwise then how did we decide to suspend certain rights in the Constitution but not suspend the others? So
Okay.
in the process of deciding it, I think there should be a criteria which decides a sort of.
This is what simple logic teaches us. But as a principle of international law, actually there is no hierarchy. The importance, but you're right, this is what basic logic tells us. It's about survival, it comes first. But if we start with this logic, then we start putting certain political rights to the very end of this list. And in order to prevent this happening, international law's approach is saying that there's no hierarchy in between rights. All of them are directly related to human being, but some of them can be administered by the state and some of them cannot be administered by the state. So this is how we start. Another important approach of international law towards human rights is that what we know is equality is an important element. Equality in between individuals. Equality before law. Equality is spoiled under discrimination. Then you have to tell me what discrimination is, or what is the basis of discrimination. When you imagine, I'm sure you have all seen Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is not a treaty, by the way. Okay? Universal Declaration of Human Rights is not a treaty. It is the basis of entire human rights law and entire human rights regimes all around the world, but it is not a treaty. No one has signed it. That's a declaration, but it is accepted. It is adopted by United Nations General Assembly. So there are certain sentences in that paper, in the Universal Declaration, regardless of this, all human beings are equal. What is the basis of discrimination? Yes, please.
Like sex, religion, gender, religion, or race. That's features people obtain at birth, and ideology.
That's it, definitely. The basis of discrimination is, first of all, the features brought by birth. Religion is also considered among them because it is considered that religion is something learned through majorly the families. Your clan, your ethnic background, your complexion color of your skin, what I mean, your gender, language, true. They all are considered as features that you bring by birth because we hear about genocide taking place against a certain religion, for instance, like Holocaust in Germany, being Jewish was the problem. So it's a feature brought by birth. But we never hear a state deciding a genocide against all Bilkent graduates. So. True. Well, there is an explanation for that. That's true. They were trying to create the best, Übermensch was trying to be created. And in order to realize that, they were trying to get rid of homosexuals because they're not reproducing, or disabled people because they cannot add anything for their next generations. So that's true. That was also part of the entire Holocaust. That's true. And they're also considered as features brought by birth. You have something to add?
Also with people with sickness that are
True. So the first discrimination bases are features that you bring by birth. Second discrimination base is ideology. The political ideology that people subscribe to can also be a basis of discrimination for them. So when the states, for instance, start discrimination between their citizens, then you can hear that the actions against all Marxists or all political Islamists and so on, or all Orthodox people, Coptic people. Spaghetti monster exists, right? All the believers of spaghetti monster, perhaps. So this can be a basis of discrimination. Or when we go back to the history of United States, we remember who could step into the buses, who could not, who could sit where, who could not, who can use the public but pools, who could not. So first of all, for equality, our first emphasis is what discrimination is. Secondly, we have to clarify what equality is. For instance, if I decide to give all of my students extra 5 points as bonus, is it equality? You find equality. If I decide to subtract 5 points from everybody, do you consider it as equality? You find it so? Good to hear. If I were a student, I wouldn't be saying yes. Why wouldn't be I saying so is that what I understand from equality is benefits. If I decide to torture all my students, is it equality? Then from your perspective, yes. Because it's just the same implementation to everybody. Equality shouldn't be the same implementation. The state saying that everybody will be paying 1 million Turkish liras to me as tax. Is it equality? Well, this would be a very equal country. We would be just content with that. I mean, if you're a coach, If you're Sabancı, that's something else. If you're you, that's something else. Right? So equality is, first of all, beneficial. Of course, it is the same implementation for everybody on one hand. On the other hand, do you remember, there's a very famous caricature. It's not funny, but it's caricature. The thing is that there are three different people and there's a wall and they're trying to see through the wall. And they have the same height of the box. So it makes a difference what equality is, giving everybody the same thing or collecting the same thing, collecting same amount of taxes. The taxes, how are they regulated? They depend on the percentages on your income. Then you consider this equality. So this is what you expect from equality. What is equality before law?
Regardless of your status, you get treated by law equally.
That's true. Criminal law is same for all of us. It is not different. It is okay when I commit a murder, but you will definitely be punished when you, well, you can just bring up similar cases to me saying that many people become murderers, but some of them are released because they just put on their sweets on them. Then you can start discussing if this is equality, if equality before law exists. So you have to think about what equality is, what discrimination is. What kind of implementation do you expect from the state in order to establish equality in between? This is the basis of human rights, first of all. All right? Do you have any questions until here? Yes?
Do you think equality is often compatible with justice?
I don't want to come to that point yet. Again, let's save it. Let's just talk about the basics. First of all, that. So, discrimination has to be avoided, and discrimination happens on those bases. And equality is equality. First of all, what equality before law is valid for everybody with the same procedures and provisions. It does not change from person to person. All individuals are equal before their domestic law, and all states are equal before international law. All right? Until here, we have clarified. And there are different categories of rights. We have core rights, we have political and civil rights, and third category is we have economic, social, and cultural rights. States are allowed to intervene with second and third categories, but states never intervene with the core rights. When the core rights are touched by the state, then we talk about international crimes like war crimes, crimes against humanity, or no one remembers, genocide, thank you. Of course. So states are the main protectors of human rights, and states can actually have different implementations because it is directly related to their sovereignty, to their regime type, to their governmental type, to the conditions that they're going through. Our example was state of emergency. How's that in Turkish? Okay. Under state of emergency, state can limit the rights of their own citizens because of many considerations. The thing is that this is also bringing up certain question marks. For instance, after 9/11, terrorism was the main concern of the entire world, and in order to prevent terrorist attacks, international terrorism attacking, then states have started to audio tape all our phone calls, let's say. They have installed cameras all around the cities. So once you leave your home until you reach to this class, how many cameras capture you? Do you know? Relentless, right? True. And the thing is that the state does it on behalf of our security, right? What do you think about this? Yes, please.
In case some NSA agents look their girlfriend's private message,
Uh-huh.
just
Okay.
so, even it's a state,
Uh-huh.
it's a human nature. It's not.
It's so open to abuse, that's what you mean. The state is there to provide us with our rights and freedoms, of course. State is also there to provide us with our security. When the state is trying to provide your security, it is, from time to time, abusing your privacy, for instance. What do you think about that?
I was reading a research about it, and it's short. It's I know that it concerns with like 100 cases, and it shows that like only 6 of them are like 6 of the terrorist organizations are taken by the are captured by the classical methods, like not by the those advanced communication techniques. So in fact, like it's so few that they actually catch people using surveillance, etc.
Okay, so you don't find it so useful.
I mean, yeah, like they mostly catch it with classical methods, not with,
Surveillance.
yeah.
Okay. Well, see, I mean, we are all using our credit cards, and through credit cards, the state can track where do you live, how do you live, under what conditions you are, when do you travel, what are your habits. They're all trackable. You all have at least on Instagram or Facebook or what else, Twitter. Your information is also open. It's not only the state, private companies are also tracking you. According to international law standards, we expect the state to protect us, to provide us with our security. We also expect our state, to provide us with our freedoms and rights. And according to the standards, no one is more important than the other. The state must be able to provide the security and human rights at the same level, all the time. This is the ideal. This is not reached yet. But this is the main objective of the state or objective of the international law. Now, when you know that your human rights are somehow abused, what you do is that when you come across with any kind of crime, then what happens is that what you should do is either you go to the police or you go to the state prosecutor, right? And you have some evidences that something against you has taken place. You provide your evidence and you complain about what has happened. And then the state prosecutor studies it. And if your evidence is found enough, sufficient, then a litigation can be started. This is how it works. So in order to protect your human rights, there are domestic remedies. And state has many different procedures to protect your human rights. I mean, if you're buying shoes and at home you open the box and there are 2 of left shoes, for instance, this is also abuse of your customer rights. Then you know what to do. Under such conditions, you always use your rights according to your domestic law. The thing is that there are certain conditions under which domestic laws are not protecting your rights. The first thing it is expected by also international law is that you exhaust the entire internal remedies. Do you know what it means, exhausting the internal remedies? Can you explain?
You apply all the international courts and you can go, that you went as far as you can in the national jurisdiction system.
And what do you mean by that, as far as you can?
Between the hierarchy of courts, you reach the, for example, appeal courts if it's necessary in your jurisdiction process.
Good.
And you think that your abuse of rights are not compensated, and still like you have a harm given by the state, then you can.
That's good. First, you go for a court case. And then, if you don't like the decision, then you go for a higher court for appeals. And in classical ways, we can say that you have a right to 3 times appeals. You try all your rights, and at the end, if you see that national court system, national jurisdiction does not protect your human rights at its best, then you can turn to the regional or international human rights protection methods. When I mention regional human rights protection methods, the first thing that pops up in your minds is which court? Definitely, European Court of Human Rights. Where is that? The headquarters of European Court of Human Rights is in? Definitely. And where is Strasbourg? In France, okay. Good. So that's a regional remedy, for instance. In order to reach international protection of human rights, the most important thing is exhausting the domestic remedies. Have you ever spoken about European Court of Human Rights in this class? We didn't do it yet. Perhaps I can just spare it for Thursday. Do you have any questions until here about human rights protection and the state, the role of the state, what equality is, what discrimination is, what are the categories of rights, which categories are more important, can we ask such questions? What is the role of the state? Do you have any questions until here? The role of the state in between security and providing rights, for instance, and so on. You don't have any questions?